Moana Mackie.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So full of ideas that he couldn't even fill a 5-minute slot in the general debate. He sat down before his time was up. Well, that's one of the members who is deserting the National Party ship because he doesn't want to be a part of any potential future coalition of the crazy that Prime Minister John Key is currently out there negotiating. And I want to quickly touch on Minister Gross's performance in the House today. Now, he's off to Warsaw on his international speaking tour. I'm sure he'll be charging a hefty appearance fee to appear at the Warsaw COP negotiations. And he said he believed that New Zealand's doing really well. We're doing really well in climate change. This is a minister who has gutted the emissions trading scheme, a minister who has sat by while our carbon price has utterly collapsed, has devastated our carbon forestry industry, has made us a pariah on the international stage when it comes to climate change, has had enormous criticism from our Pacific Island neighbours about the inaction of the New Zealand government on climate change. He thinks he's doing really, really well. But we need to acknowledge that we are in the presence of a genius when Minister Gross is in the House. Of course, he was involved in the closer economic relations and said they actually should have called it the grosser economic relations. No one else said that, unfortunately. That's what he said. But I say to this government that they have been utterly negligent in their duties in the area of climate change. It is an embarrassment going from being a country, clean, green, proud, who was seen as a leader in this area, to being seen as a pariah and getting awarded the Fossil of the Year award in international climate change negotiations. And my concern, Mr Speaker, is that when you look at where John Key is taking the National Party, I don't have any confidence that we can trust the National Party to take climate change seriously at all in the future. We've got our Prime Minister, who is on record as saying that he's suspicious of climate change. He then said, well, no, I've always believed in climate change, but when he was caught in a moment of honesty, he said, well, if you believe in climate change, and I'm somewhat suspicious of that. We have his new BFF, and favoured political bedfellow Colin Craig, who believes that climate change is caused by the circulation of the planets. Circulation of the planets. And then we have Jamie Lee Ross, up-and-coming National MP, one of the young MPs in the National Party, who yesterday, when he was door-stopped coming out of question time, refused to state on the record that climate change was real. Now, that's a pretty simple question to be asked as a politician. Do you believe climate change is real? And Jamie Lee Ross refused to comment. So I'm afraid I'm a little bit nervous. Oh, David Bennett just said no, well, but that's David Bennett. He's not one of the young up-and-comers in the National Party, to be fair. But interesting, we'll add him to the list of the coalition of the crazy who don't believe that climate change is real, who are suspicious of climate change. I'm very worried for the future of our planet and the future of our country if this government is re-elected in 2014, as it will not be. But if we go back to crazy Colin Craig, the future lead coalition partner in the coalition of the crazy, his views on climate change aren't the only interesting views he holds. Now, he came before the Select Committee on Marriage Equality and announced a new Conservative Party policy that none of us have been aware of in the past, which is that the Conservative Party opposes unisex toilets. Opposes unisex toilets. Now, it's one of those hot political issues that no one wants to touch, Mr Speaker, that political parties shy away from. His logic was that it's okay to treat people differently, so men and women's ablutions should be separate, and he thought it was absolutely appropriate that men's and women's ablutions should be separate, and so the Conservative Party opposed unisex toilets. This is a future coalition partner of the National Party if John Key has his way. Now, that begs the obvious question, Mr Speaker, does he have separate toilets at home? Does he have men's and women's toilets in his own house? But I think that when that's the kind of tripe that's coming out of the mouth of the preferred political bedfellow of John Key, voters in this country have every right to be very concerned about what a national-led government, a coalition of the crazy, would look like in 2014. Would look like in 2014. So I say, Mr Speaker, the choice is clear. A coalition on this side of the House which has sound evidence-based policies. It always cracks me up to hear the Prime Minister referring to science. It's very selective. He's very selective in his choice of science. He's ignored every single report his Prime Minister's science advisor has provided to him, but when he thinks that he can get out of doing something, he'll refer to science. You can have this side of the House, Mr Speaker, which is evidence-based, which respects science and research, which wants action on environment, action on climate change, action on the economy, or the coalition of the crazy on the other side side of the House that are going to ban unisex toilets.
Pesata Sam Lottewinga.
Well,